When you're solving compositions of trig functions, sometimes if you have a trig function with its inverse next to each other and you're taking that of a number, you can cancel those and then whatever you were taking it of can be your answer. That doesn't always work, so let's look and see when you can do that shortcut. Inverse sine of 2 pi over 3. Let's do it the longer way. 2 pi over 3 is here. We want the y value because we're looking at sine, so the y is radical 3 over 2. Now we're doing inverse sine of radical 3 over 2. So we look for an angle because inverse or arc is angle. Angle where our y, because it's sine, is radical 3 over 2. That's going to be here and here, where it's positive radical 3 over 2. But inverse sine is restricted from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2, so pi over 3 is going to be the only answer. Notice that was different than the 2 pi over 3, so we can't cancel. When we have inverse or arc on the outside, like we do in these problems, you can only cancel when the angle is within the restricted domain. So 2 pi over 3 wasn't in the restricted domain of sine, which is negative pi over 2 to pi over 2, so we had to do it the longer way. Pi over 3 is, so it will end up canceling. And we can look at it the long way to make sure. Pi over 3, y value is radical 3 over 2. Now we're doing inverse sine of radical 3 over 2. Angle where y is radical 3 over 2 are these two angles, but sine goes negative pi over 2 to pi over 2, so our angle that we get is pi over 3. So we could have from the beginning canceled those and gotten pi over 3 as our final answer. Here we have arcsine of sine of 0.1. So we can cancel if 0.1 is between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. Negative pi over 2, if you type that in your calculator, negative pi divided by 2, you'll get negative 1.6, and then pi divided by 2, 1.6. 0.1 is between those two numbers, so 0.1 will be your answer. Lastly, here's a problem with sine of arcsine. So we have our regular function on the outside and the inverse on the inside. Now, instead of our final answer being an angle, it's going to be a trig ratio. So if we think about the restricted domain of sine, we went from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. But because our answer is going to be a trig ratio, or the y value on the graph, it's going to be between negative 1 and 1. So if this number is between negative 1 and 1, we can cancel. And it is, so we can cancel, and our answer is 0.9.